So, Cassandra, we're going to be talking about, oh, I just lost it here. Okay. Slow down and savor mindful living for nervous system health. Now, if you were here before, I'm a big believer in mindfulness and presence and how important this is in really all of healthy living. But I love that you're talking specifically about nervous system health. And I just want to, introduce you quickly before we get started. So Cassandra is a holistic nurse, health and wellness coach, herbalist, author, speaker, former psychotherapist, and creator of Zest and Harmony, hold a vision of changing the current healthcare system from a culture of sick care to one of wellness. She empowers people to advocate for themselves and adopt lifestyle changes to support their own wellness. After seeing her own health and life challenged by the superwoman syndrome, she was forced to reevaluate and reframe her lifestyle, career, and relationships. Out of that experience, she developed a holistic system to support the busy professional women in ditching overwhelm and stress and creating health, happiness, and ease in all areas of their life. You are speaking to the choir as a fellow nurse and seeing the limitations in our healthcare system and wanting to bring so much more. Cassandra, welcome.
Thank you so much. Yes, I didn't realize you were also a nurse until I heard the last speaker, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Yes, I'm a psychiatric nurse and worked in mental health for many, many years. And so I'm so excited to have you here, Cassandra. Now, I can hear from your bio and also the things I've, read, because I always check out the speakers that are coming, that there's a story behind why you're so passionate about this. And I'd love to hear that.
Oh, yes. Thanks. Thank you for that question. Yes. So goes back to it goes way back. And I would say instead of going way back, I'll go to like my 20s. And it was just this busy professional, the to-do list, the on-the-go professional, just do more, be more, and got rewarded for that. I remember going way back, even in like elementary school and in high school and everything. The more I did, the more I felt better about myself. There was a piece of worthiness on doing, doing. And that the more I did, the more energy I needed. So my story started with food was I was like addicted to sugar. I'm talking when I became a nurse, a 4-pack of Reese's peanut butter cups, a Mountain Dew. I would eat 6 Krispy Kremes. I mean, it was just like, give me more sugar because more sugar gave me more energy. As a result, I was having, the highs and lows, not only in energy, but in mood, as well as I just was feeling tired. I was like crashing and burning. And also inside, I was having chronic yeast infections. I'd go to the doctor, 5-minute doctor session, they'd be like, well, don't wear wet clothes. I'm like, who wears wet clothes? Like, who wears wet clothes? I'm not wearing wet clothes.
Thanks for that.
And they said tight clothes. And this, I'm like, I'm not doing this. And then one of my friends recommended I go to an integrative physician. Now, as a nurse, I'm like, oh, what? Yeah, what are you talking about? Went to this woman who was a doctor, but had also studied integrative medicine. She spent like 2 hours with me on the first session. We talked about like what I ate, how I slept, my digestion, all of these things. And I'm like, these people exist. Make a long story short, she did a food and allergy test, found out that I was sensitive to yeast. And so for anyone who's listening might not know, if you have candida in your body, we all have candida in your body. Mine was an overgrowth. So I was also sensitive to yeast and I was feeding it. So it wasn't anything about willpower, it wasn't any of that. I was feeding the yeast and did some things to change that. And so that was the beginning of my wellness journey, the beginning of I was like, okay, when I become a therapist, I want to look at the whole picture, everything, spend that time, just being that holistic, that we're whole. And then on that journey, after getting, the food situated and everything, it was more looking and going within and recognizing, this busyness, this worthiness, this feeling enough is also messing with my nervous system. It's like the words that I'm speaking to myself, I'm not enough, or I have to do more. Meditation. I would remember like taking it was when I got my postmaster's in holistic nursing. And they were like, find something to do, a holistic modality to do. And I thought, I'm doing meditation because that's going to be so hard. It's going to be so hard for me to sit and be still. And I did that. And it was like, I was like, this is it. Meditation is the cure for everything. I mean, it really slowed things down and helped me to go within and recognize that I was creating this life. No one else was doing it. It was me adding on. And so was working with people around the superwoman syndrome and all of this stuff. And then added on more things. But that was basically, yeah, a big part of my story was food, meditation. Then there's other things, but then that would just take my whole time to go into.
I love that you talk about this, that there's so many of us that, and I can speak on behalf of many nurses, but even helpers and healers and moms and parents that often feel like they're just not doing enough, that they need to keep doing and giving and, helping. And we end up burning ourselves out. And that's what I hear you saying. But you also burned yourself out with the things you were eating, right? And I worked with one of my favorite psychiatrists that I worked with who works with youth. And I'm so happy because before she would even recommend any kind of medication to a youth, she would say, how are they eating? How are they sleeping? And how active are they? And then once they get that together, then we'll look at the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that because it really is the foundation, isn't it, of health, is looking at those three things and then moving to the next level where your meditation and reaching in really does change your life.
Really does. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. So tell us a little, now we're going to have a great conversation because I love mindful living. So tell us a little bit about, oh, what do you mean slow down? How can I create everything I want to create when you're telling me to slow down?
Ah, and that too, yes, the whole slow down. And there's that whole thing on your mind. I was like, rest? That means I'm being lazy. Like that was the bad word, the 4-letter word, the lazy, it's
Yeah.
like I would have to complete everything before I could rest. Well, if you saw my to-do list, that's not happening. So
It
that
never
means
happens.
I'm not resting, and it's like doing one thing at a time because you're rewarded for multitasking, all of this stuff. And really, it's like, I'm not going to say you're not going to do things well because I did do things well. I did do them well, but at what expense? And so it's really, if people are listening to this, know that that's, being compassionate with yourself because your mind, and that is first when I'm working with people is what are those stories, which they're not even stories, they're lies. I heard someone say they're not stories, they're actually lies that we tell ourselves. And I know the previous speaker was talking about this, and it's just that these lies that we're saying, like I have to do everything before I rest, or I'm not enough, or I'm lazy because I'm choosing to just rest today. That's a novel idea, or take a nap, like all of these things. It's like, what? And you also look at how the judgment, because I would look at people like when I was back in that busy day of like, oh, what are they doing? I mean, they have time to like to meditate, to just relax for a full day. What? And so there was some judgment, but really looking at that and getting curious of like, So that first step would be like, just get curious about what comes up and how does that feel in my body? because that goes to that nervous system. So if I'm like, oh, I have to complete my to-do list, and this woman is up here saying, slow down. Okay, then I have all this like, well, if I slow down, I'm not going to finish my to-do list. I'm not going to produce, I'm not going to be productive. And now my heart has started beating, right? And I'm feeling all of this activation of my nervous system. Well, then you're never going to do that. And that's okay. That's where the compassion, it's just like, okay, let me see where these stories come from. A lot of times it's just family. I remember my grandmother telling me if I took a nap, I love to sleep. Let me tell you, I love to sleep. And she used to say, you're going to sleep your life away. I mean, and it wasn't even so you're going to sleep your life away, and so that's playing in my head like, oh, well, that's not a good thing to sleep your life away. So the first thing would just be to get curious before even taking that step to slow down, is being curious with, what do I feel about slowing down? How does that feel in my body? Let me take 10 seconds to take a breath in, take a breath out. How am I feeling in my body? Just noticing that, and you'll recognize even taking that breath. It's just that in itself slows things down.
I love this, Cassandra, because it's this whole it's family, but it's also society, about striving and doing and going and hustling, and you have to do all that to build this successful life. And this goes against all of those things. And I love that you just, okay, when I say slow down, take a moment and what how does that feel? Let's explore that
Mhm.
before you even start to put slowing down in. Let's see how you feel about it and what thoughts come up. How does it feel in your body? What an important place to start. And I always believe that awareness is really the part where we start to build our next steps. But I love this because for some people, this is going to be fun to say, what do you mean slow down?
Oh, absolutely. If someone would have told me in my slow down, it would be like, what are you talking about? Like, basically, what are you talking about? Like, well, that's just going to mess up everything, every area of my life. And if I slow down, I'm not going to be successful at my job. I'm not going to be successful at my business, my relationship, my social, anything. It's that rushing energy. It's very much. And have I arrived? No, it's still another layer of, I find things where I'm like getting into that rushing, it's like, and those are times when I recognize I haven't created enough space in my schedule, in my life. Looks good on paper. Looks real good on paper, on calendar, or on your computer, on your calendar, whatever. If it's paper, or it looks really good. Like, oh, but those times of like just times to breathe, and when I'm at work and when I'm having meetings and going back to back, and I'll notice, and again, I'll notice that in my body, and I'll notice the thoughts, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm rushing. I can't, because I'm also a nurse manager. So if people are talking to me and I can feel like, hurry up, I can't talk to you. I got something to do, and
Yeah.
then I notice this and I'm like, and I just take that breath, and I recognize and I listen and I'm present with them and I tell them how much time I have and that I'll be back. But it's those steps of just curiosity, checking in with your body, being compassionate, even if you're just like, I'm not going to do this. She just does not know how much I have to do. She just really doesn't. I don't care that it worked for her. I don't care that it's just get curious. And then I just encourage people to take that breath. And that breath really, science has shown that really does bring so you got that systematic nervous system. and then the parasympathetic nervous system. And that comes back to that parasympathetic. So you're out of that fight or flight. Yes, we need the fight or flight for actual fear, but usually the fear is our minds, right? Our minds are telling us things. And so when we can just take that breath, when we remember to breathe, it will bring you back to that present moment. And actually, what I love is the magic that it produces. You will actually be more productive. I know it's counterintuitive. I know if someone told me this, it's counterintuitive. But when you breathe, I mean, I had to do it before here. I had some things going on before here, and I was like, okay, use your tools. Stop. Take 5 minutes to just breathe. The clarity, your clarity of your mind, your thoughts. You're able to have more energy. You actually have more energy because you're not draining, having all that overwhelm and stress actually zaps your energy. So when we can just come to that, yeah.
I always say never underestimate the power of your breath and breathing. And, Cassandra, there's lots of studies that talk about productivity and busyness, and that busyness is actually counterproductive. That they've studied that people that are working on a task and they interrupt to either answer a text or an email, it actually takes 5 to 10 minutes to get back into that task again. And so it takes them 50% longer, and they make 50% more mistakes. So they got to go back and correct all those mistakes. Whereas when you're just slow down and focus, you are actually much more productive than when you're all over the place trying to get everything done. It's cool.
It really is. It is so, and that is like in every area. So, we're talking about like the doing, but also in the eating, back to eating. I was also a fast eater because I had things to do. Who has time to slow down and eat? It was like,
Right?
I remember as a child, like I wanted to play outside. I wanted to be outside. And then it was like, oh, let me, eat my sandwich really fast or eat whatever I'm eating really fast and get back outside. And the long-term impacts of the stress, the eating is inflammation, which is going to lead more to other dis-ease, like heart dis-ease, and it's going to impact your mood, and it can lead to, diabetes, all of these different things. And it's like, this is a thing even when you're like eating your food, tapping into all your senses, the smell of the food, the color. I always tell people I said, you know what? How you get your your minerals and eat a balanced meal is the more colors you add, the more vitamins, the more phytonutrients, but just the color of it. It's beautiful, like the rainbow. And you're like, ah, and then you taste it and you really allow that. And I always say, my taste buds are dancing. This is so good. you know?
I love that you talk about this, and I know that, I don't want to get to the end of our time and not have shared all this, but this is something that I really talk about when I talk about starting to trust our body. Our body is so wise. Yet, like you said, we're so busy. We eat while we're running around. We eat in front of the TV. We eat, and we actually don't listen to our body telling us that we're hungry, or telling us when we're full, or telling us when to rest or when to move, because we're so busy. And when we're able to slow down and really listen to that wisdom, it's incredible the things that change and how your health gets better. But I'm always talking about having joy in life. And why not enjoy what we're eating? Like, sit down and be joyful with what you're eating. Spend that time, just like you're saying, with all of your senses, and really be in joy.
Yes. And it does. It just makes me, But I love all things regarding food. And I did not always do that. When I was eating garbage, I wasn't. And now I like going to the farmer's market, looking at what's in season, picking what's in season, cooking it. So even the sounds, like the chopping, it's very meditative. You're just like
Yeah.
chopping it. And I'm told you become more creative. I didn't think I was a creative person until I became more mindful in all areas of my life. And I'm like, the creativity, the intuition, the intuitiveness, we all have it. It's just that it's been cloudy with busyness. And
Yes.
this, like you're saying before, it's like this, just, pushing energy and the societal to push more, to hustle, to all this. And when you really can just go, let me come right here, right now. Your body, like you're saying, has such wisdom. The intuition becomes, it's like you become more in flow. I mean, I'll be driving, go this way, spirit, go this way, do this. I mean, it's like, and
Right.
I'm not in my head just, pushing the pushing energy.
Yes. Yes. And that pushing energy actually pushes away the things you want to create
Mm-hmm.
rather than being in this state of flow and being, very aware of your body wisdom and your intuition. It really creates this different state, doesn't it? Where you can create that life you want with health as well. And I love that. Now we have another couple of minutes here, so I want to make sure that you've gotten all your points in there. I know that you talked about even slowing down with eating and enjoying all of those with your senses. Do you have any like another tip for people that are listening to start to bring this slowing down into their lives?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. I would say another thing is with everything tapping into your senses. So even in Zoom, we're on Zoom, right? And we can and it's like being still and looking at like, oh, Leslie has on this color shirt and there's greenery, you know what I mean? And it's like the eyes. What am I smelling right now? And it's like whatever I'm doing, even when I'm in a conversation, which is so important because we think about connection and with people and how we're just rushing, we're not, it's really just, let me just really be empty and not think about my next question for them or even what I got to do, and so it's really just like seeing like how I can tap into my senses where outside is a beautiful place like nature because it's so abundant. So going outside, listening to the birds, there's a free app, Merlin Birds. I love it. And you can see what birds that are in your area chirping around. And so it just is so like, wow, I never knew this many birds existed, but it's like these little things of like, the sounds, the smells, you know, um, the sensations, and that could be even what kind of sensations do I like? Do I like to, like this or do, my phone like this, that's kind of smooth, like those and it's really that curiosity. And then I would also just say grounding, and being outside, if you can, this is not always barefoot, being outside barefoot, grounding, that grounding energy. Because a lot of us who are like this, if we just, that grounding energy and bring it down and the breath. And they can
Love
be
it.
the box breath, 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4. And you can do 3 sets of those. Takes less than a minute. Helps bring you back to your
Amazing what it can do. Hey, Cassandra. Now, Cassandra, I know that you have a free gift for us. And
Mhm.
now we have the title of the free gift, but we don't have the link.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think.
I'm gonna put the link. I had a
So, Hannah, if
feeling
you,
that you didn't, and I pulled it up right before here. It
yeah,
is, yes, it
okay.
is,
So if you could put the title in there, Hannah,
yes.
of
I
the
don't know
free
what
gift.
came up like that. I hope,
So if
okay.
you can tell us about the free gift,
So
Cassandra?
it's called Thrive from Within Workbook. And okay, there she is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nourish your nervous system, 90
that
minutes.
was, I think, the other. Yeah. So this is Thrive from Within Workbook. And
Okay, perfect.
it is a workbook with journaling questions. You cannot fill them in. So just like the previous speaker was saying, I do believe that writing can, like you can look at them, get a journal, write on it. It has, so my Nourish system it's a framework. It stands for, N is for nourish your mind, O is for optimize your nutrition, U is for unwind with rest and relaxation. I is for inner and outer connection. S is for self-care rituals and routine. And H is for harmonize your lifestyle. So that is full with practical tips, simple actionable steps to integrate into
Beautiful.
your daily routine and some journal questions. And then there's also a audio a visualization of you meeting your future self and what your future self will tell you. And then there's also a breathwork audio. So there's 2 audios and the workbook.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this generous gift. So if you can just put in the chat that you got it, so we make sure that link is working, so Cassandra knows it's working, that would be perfect, please, if you can just say got it. And now you have also a VIP gift.
Yes, yes. So my VIP gift, which I don't have on this, but I will send you that, is on I do workshops, 2-hour workshops around this framework. And I did one 2 months ago on Nourish Your Mind. The next one will be in July. It will be, and I don't have that specific date, but it's optimize your nutrition. And so everyone will be able to join that free or get the replay for that.
Beautiful, beautiful. So as you've heard me say, our speakers have been so incredibly generous with the gifts that they're giving us completely free, and also to our VIPs. There's over $4,000 in worth in the gifts to our VIPs. So, if you want Cassandra's gift to attend this workshop or get the replay or any of the other gifts that have been offered, recordings of every one of the speakers, it's $47 US, and you can upgrade at riseup-summit.com. And I'm telling you, it's like more than worth it. So, absolutely do that. So we have Dr. Tina is coming up next at 1:45. And she's going to be helping us with some grounding exercises. So before we go, Cassandra, please just leave us with one short thing.
You are enough. You are worthy and you are enough. Just by being who you are.
Beautiful. I love that. This is a place where, if you know me, this is where I come from. You are worthy. You don't have to do more, be more, have more, any of that. You are worthy right now, just as you are. Thank you for that reminder, Cassandra. It was my pleasure chatting with you and having you as part of the Rise Up Summit. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'm just going to take a